What's next for the main Star Wars line of comics? Charles Soule is writing the current run, and the Dark Droids crossover event is just about over. We can also expect this year's issue of Star Wars Revelations to give us a look at the future. I think we're still in store for plenty of stories set in between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. I agree with fans who say this year and the timeline is starting to feel awfully crowded, but I also have to admit that Star Wars doesn't super care about that kind of thing. The Clone Wars had nearly 150 episodes set in 3 years, and that's not including the books or comics set in that exact same time period. Anyway, we are getting closer and closer to Return of the Jedi in the comics, and a question I get all the time is what will happen when we reach it? I think it's likely that we'll get a reboot of the series once again, just like we did when the first comic run caught up to The Empire Strikes Back, but where will the new series go? I think the most likely and obvious choice is to simply jump into more stories set after Return of the Jedi. There's a year between the Battle of Endor and the Battle of Jakku to explore, and plenty of characters we could follow. Kez Dameron and Shara Bey have been involved in Charles Soule's current stories. We could see more from the Imperial hunting team from the Aftermath trilogy of books, which also opens up the possibility of seeing more from the Acolytes of the Beyond. And of course, there is Luke and Leia and the time they spent training together. That's what I would like to see the most. I'm so glad they brought that into The Rise of Skywalker, but it did make the timeline a little fuzzy, so the comics could clear up how it all went down. And we've already seen Charles Soule tackle some of that in his Hidden Empire comics. Soule is great at a lot of things, and seeding future stories in his current writing is one of them. We're still seeing the payoff from his 2015 Lando comic 8 years after it was published in the form of Lobot and the Helmet of Darth Momin, which keeps popping up. And that Sith element has me intrigued, because while I do think the comic will likely just shift in the New Republic era when it reboots, there is another possibility. Because just like Momin, I've been noticing several more ancient story ideas popping up. I don't think we're done learning about Momin, first of all, but there is another as of yet unnamed Sith that appeared in Star Wars issue 35. Luke Skywalker attempted to purify a red kyber crystal, and it caused him to have a vision of the Sith who created it. We already know they will be returning in Star Wars issue 42, and that might be all Soule has planned for them, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if he has larger plans for the character just like he did for Momin. It feels similar to how he wrote references to the High Republic era before those books and comics officially started. Speaking of, even Soule's High Republic comic, Shadows of Starlight, showed us some ancient Jedi technology in issue 2. It could all mean nothing. I would say it probably means nothing, but I would say there is a chance we might be building to some comic stories that could take place thousands of years before the films. That idea excites me greatly, but I have to admit I would be surprised if that were our first major canon foray into that era. I think Lucasfilm has been saving it for something big and probably wants to establish how it looks and feels on screen before on the page. But hey, the High Republic era started on the page and set the look and feel first before it started showing up in Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Young Jedi Adventures, and soon the Acolytes, so anything is possible. I think the safer bet is still the continuing stories of Luke and friends after Return of the Jedi, but then again, who's to say we can't do both? Maybe the main series will follow Luke and Leia and the original trilogy cast, and we could get another new series set thousands of years earlier. I don't know, now I'm just falling into wishful thinking, but what do you hope we see in the future of Star Wars comics? Let me know in the comments. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on our socials, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.